On this episode, I am trading the humid subtropical climate of Florida for the arid desert country of Arizona. I was fortunate enough to draw a January archery-only Javelina tag, and after a couple of months of prep, a quick layover in Atlanta, I landed safely at the Tucson International Airport. Then it was off the baggage claim to secure the gear and make my way to pick up the ride. With gear loaded and ready to roll, the first order of business was to make quick stops at REI to pick up some critical gear, and Walmart for 5 days of supplies and an over-the-counter non-resident archery Coues deer tag. Then I pointed the truck northeast and began my journey to Unit 27. My game plan consisted of staying south of the Mogollon Rim. My thought process here was that the Javelina would be less tolerant to the much colder temperatures at the higher elevations and prefer the warmer temps of the south half of the unit. I determined my hunt locations within this video solely from information gathered from the Arizona Game and Fish website that is available to anyone with access to the web. But I certainly wasn't going to make it before dark. But after a 4-hour car ride, navigating the treacherous Highway 191 in the dark, and being in travel status for nearly 20 hours, I had gone as far as I could go.
I am exhausted. I finally just called it and pulled over. I have no idea where I am, but I guess it's as good as any. So, gonna get some sleep. I'm done.
On day one, I focused my efforts on the west central part of the unit that borders the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation, the home of giant elk, mule, and Coues deer. My thought process here was that there has to be Javelina coming off the reservation. I wanted to get a good look at Big Dry, Bee, and Bear canyons, and to just walk and cover as much country as possible. I soon determined there wasn't much here to get excited about. Arizona has been going through a pretty epic drought over the last couple years, and the lack of moisture within these canyons has forced Javelina to follow the water. I found that even Eagle Creek runs mostly underground in this area. Been hiking a couple hours up into this canyon, a couple miles in, and I'm seeing zero sign of Javelina. I've seen a few mule deer tracks, maybe a few old Coues deer tracks, but it's pretty dead in here. I'm thinking I'm wasting my time. And the deeper and deeper I go into this canyon, the more time I'm wasting. So I'm thinking I'm gonna take a quick lunch break, and I'm gonna pack up my gear and just get out of here and move on. With 4.5 days left to make it happen, I knew I had to be aggressive, so I worked my way farther north along Upper Eagle Creek Road and did a little glassing along the way until I finally found where the creek runs above ground. So I started scouting, and it didn't take long to find my first Javelina sign. Finally found some sign. There's a lot of trails in here crisscrossing, mostly Javelina tracks. So they're here somewhere, but I believe they're coming off the Indian reservation, and I don't know if they're really doing that till late. So other than a few mule deer sightings, it was an uneventful day, but I was encouraged by the sign I had found and was hopeful for the morning hunt. Day 2 was clear and cold, and I spent the morning hiking and glassing the mountains near Eagle Creek. And even though I found Javelina sign, I'm convinced that they were spending most of their time on the reservation. So other than seeing this magnificent red-tailed hawk and then cutting my first ever lion track, I knew I needed to move. So I packed up my gear and moved to the east central part of the unit to work Cow Canyon and Blue River. The biggest lesson I had just learned was that in times of drought, follow the water. I wasn't going to make it in time for the evening hunt, but I was excited for the promise of what new country holds. Day 3 was a bit warmer. My plan was to make a day of it and walk the Blue River Canyon all the way down to Pat Mesa, a one-way trip of about 5 miles. Never have I been in the presence of such awe-inspiring country or witnessed the beauty that surrounded me the entire journey. It didn't take long before I started finding fresh rooting, a sign that held the promise of Javelina being somewhere nearby. And then suddenly, there they were. Man, that was exciting. It was a good group, at least a dozen. There was some really good javelina in there. That's the first javelina I've ever even seen. I was just slipping down the canyon and I heard something. I heard him walking in the leaves, over in the cottonwood leaves. And there he was. But I could never get a clear shot with a bow. I mean, it's just a tangled mess over there. And I just couldn't find an opening. So I'm not really sure what to do right now, but I gotta think. So I decided against chasing the group, seeing as how I would be approaching them from directly upwind, creating odds not in my favor. So I continued downriver looking to strike another group, but no luck. I was hopeful to catch up with the group on my way back, once they had settled down. Javelina are known for not going too far when spooked. I even explored several dry creeks in hopes they had used them as escape routes, but somehow they literally had just vanished. Yeah, get some. A 10-mile round trip. Man, I am glad to see this truck. The morning of day 4, I wanted to make one more attempt at locating the group, or squadron, which is actually the correct technical term for a group of javelina. But unfortunately, my attempt was in vain. They were just nowhere to be found. This here is the spot where the javelina were yesterday, and I can see now that they were basically bedded. They're probably just getting up when I came across them. And this is a highly defensible position. I mean, they had the high ground on me. And you can see this wall of vegetation. There was just no way to get an arrow through there, even though they were only 15, 20 yards from me. I couldn't get a shot. And then they were spooked, and I think they knew something was up, and then they dismissed it, and then the wind swirled again, and then they the second time they're like, yeah, something's up. And they spooked on down the canyon. Well, weather's moving in, and I've got to get out of here because these roads are going to get bad, and I don't want to get stuck in here. So I gotta hike out, pack up, and move on to somewhere else. Keep scouting, keep looking. So I made a command decision to leave Blue River and head to the southeast part of the unit to Rattlesnake Road. And this area is more what I expected to find in Arizona. It's vast amounts of prickly pear, and Javelina tend to gravitate towards prickly pear. It's a food source for them, but it's also a good source of cover. So I may be making my last stand here and glassing as much acreage as I can glass, and hopefully turn up something and make a stalk. After a morning of some brutal hikes and glassing, I finally found a squadron exactly where they should be, warming up after a long, cold night on a morning south-facing slope. From here, everything was in my favor. They were heavily engaged in feeding, and the wind was perfect. All I had to do was slip in a little closer for a shot and somehow not screw that up. Kidding me? Kidding me? So the hunt this morning did not go as planned. Everything went perfect. The stalk, everything was perfect until I missed. I shot right under the Javelina. So that was at 11 o'clock this morning. I just frustrated. I went back to the truck, shot the bow a few times to get my confidence back, and then I swung about a mile down the canyon in the direction that they ran, just praying that I could find them again, run into them again. And I have. They're probably about 300-400 yards from where I saw them this morning, and they're just feeding on that slope. So I got to think about this. Think about how I'm going to get over there to them. So we'll see. Thank you, Lord. What a great birthday present. How often does it happen on the last day of the hunt, in the last hour of light, that you somehow make it happen? The stars just align for you every once in a while. And unfortunately, I didn't catch it on camera because it just happened so fast, and I had a mishap with my camera and tripod earlier where basically I broke my camera, so I can't fit it to the tripod. So it happened fast. I got I got in the group, one of the big males knew something was up and he circled me. But for some reason, I guess he still kind of dismissed me, but he ran down the hill. And I could hear him grunting down in this canyon. And all of a sudden, he just come running back up. They're so curious. He came up the hill, and I was behind one of these bushes, and I didn't know if he was going to come out on the right or left side. So I just drew the bow, and just when he came out on that left side, I was already on him, and I just center punched him. And he ran down the hill here. I see good blood already. He's hit well. I don't think he went very far. I heard him crash as well. But then the whole family group just kind of scattered, and you'll see how they just kind of ran up the hill, and they're grunting, and they're trying to get the herd, back together. But they knew something was up. They knew something happened, but they didn't know what. But finally, you saw they just calmed right down, and they just went on their way. I think they might have been waiting. They're such a social animal that I believe they knew that even one was missing from the herd, or from their pack, whatever you call a group of javelinas. All right, so I dropped the pack back up on the hill. I'm going to go back up and grab the pack, and then we're going to come down here and track this javelina. I don't think he went far, and I think I heard him crash. I could see why a final approach pack would be beneficial, because as soon as you drop your pack, you don't have food and water anymore, and you think you're just going to be gone for a short while, but then you end up being gone an hour or two, and you are starting to feel the effects of dehydration. So let's go down and get this javelina. Got decent penetration, I guess. Good enough. Oh, there he is, right there. Right in the wash. Wow. That is a really, really good javelina. And it's just a big adult male is what I was hunting. Big adult male. Oh yeah. Man, that was fun. Beautiful animal. God. Their fur is almost like porcupine quills. It's unbelievable. coyotes have picked up the scent of this javelina. They're basically on my trail. They're tracking me all the way back to the truck. 5 days grinding it out. I have been all over this unit, and to somehow get it done right there at the end, man, it feels good. I'd love to be able to hunt Arizona elk or mule deer, but that's not going to happen. It's a points state, and the draw odds are ridiculous for a non-resident to draw good tags. They're ridiculous for residents to draw. So heading off the mountain, I'm gonna go and get this javelina iced down, and then I'm gonna start making my way to Tucson. I got a 6 o'clock flight, and I'm heading back to Florida. Peace. And as much of a blessing as it was to experience 5 amazing days in Arizona, it's an even bigger blessing to get back home safely to the family, because I missed these 2 dearly. And there is no one else I'd rather enjoy some fresh, hard-earned javelina with, and never for 1 second believe anyone that tells you javelina is not fit to eat. That's coming from someone that has no idea how to cook or properly process the animal. I can tell you right now that a javelina ham and backstrap smoked slowly with fresh jalapenos is one of the best game dishes I've ever prepared. And with rewards like this, it's about to start becoming an annual tradition. And maybe I can even talk my bride into letting T-Rex miss a couple days of school next year to tag along. I encourage anyone who is interested in hunting some of the most scenic land on earth to give these noble and fun to hunt animals a try.